Someone asks you a simple question, "What do you want?" And suddenly, your mind goes quiet. Not calm, empty in a tense way. You feel the need to answer fast, but nothing honest shows up. So you smile, you say something vague, or you joke, or you deflect. And the moment passes, but the discomfort stays. It is a strange reaction because it does not feel like confusion. It feels like hesitation mixed with self-awareness. Like something inside. You paused before speaking. Most people experience this more often than they admit. At dinner with friends. In a job interview. In a relationship conversation that feels heavier than it should. And what makes it unsettling is that it happens even when the question is asked gently. No pressure, no threat, just curiosity. Yet your body reacts first. Your chest tightens, your thoughts scatter, and for a second, you do not know what you want. Or maybe you do, but it feels unsafe to say. That reaction is not random, it is patterned. And once you start noticing it, you see it everywhere. There is often a split second where you consider multiple answers at once. One that feels true, one that feels acceptable, one that feels like it will end the conversation quickly. That split second is where the hesitation lives. It is not empty, it is crowded with memory, with past reactions, with small moments that taught you which desires were welcomed and which ones created tension. You do not consciously recall those moments, but your nervous system remembers them. Psychology reveals that much of decision-making happens below language, before thought turns into speech. I used to think this hesitation meant I had not thought enough about my life, that I lacked direction, that other people had some inner clarity I was missing. But the more I paid attention, the more I realized the pause did not come from lack of ideas. It came from something else. From a subtle internal check that happens before words form. Almost like a filter asking, "This acceptable here? Is this version of wanting going to make things awkward? Is it going to ask too much? Is it going to expose me?" And the strange thing is how fast this check happens. You feel it as a pause, but it is really a decision made in milliseconds. Think about how often wanting was met with resistance. As a kid, you want to stay longer. You want something different. You want attention when adults are busy. And the response, even when loving, often carries a condition. Not now. Be grateful. Do not make a fuss. Over time, your brain picks up on the emotional triggers. It learns that wanting is not neutral. It sends subtle signals to the people around you. Signals that can change how they see you. So hesitation becomes a form of protection, not conscious, automatic. Researchers suggest that cognitive patterns like this shape human behavior far more than deliberate choice. You are not choosing to hesitate. Your system is doing it for you. There is another layer that people rarely talk about. Wanting something means admitting that your current reality is not enough, and that can feel dangerous. Especially if you built an identity around being adaptable, easygoing, the one who is fine with whatever. When someone asks what you want, it threatens that identity. If you answer honestly, you risk breaking a role that kept you safe for a long time. So the mind stalls. It searches for a version of desire that will not disrupt the balance. Something socially approved. Something small. Something reversible. And if it cannot find it fast enough, it chooses silence. Notice how different the hesitation feels depending on who is asking. With close friends, it might feel lighter. With authority figures, heavier. With people whose approval you value, almost paralyzing. That difference matters. It shows that the pause is relational. It is not about knowing yourself. It is about anticipating the reaction. Most people think hesitation means uncertainty, but often, it is certainty that feels risky. You know what you want. You just do not know if you are allowed to want it here, with this person, in this moment. There is a moment I remember clearly. Someone asked me where I wanted my life to go, not dramatically, just casually, almost offhand. And I felt myself reach for an answer that sounded thoughtful but harmless. Halfway through, I noticed it was not true. The real answer was louder inside me, but it felt too exposed. I remember wondering why honesty felt like oversharing. That question stayed with me. Why does clarity sometimes feel like a social risk? Human behavior makes more sense when you see wanting as a signal, not a preference. It signals values, boundaries, direction, and signals invite response, approval or rejection, support or friction. So the brain weighs the cost before letting the signal out. This happens so fast that it feels like instinct. You experience it as hesitation, a pause that is not empty, but crowded with past experiences, patterns that shape your life quietly, without asking for permission. And here's the part that usually goes unnoticed. When you hesitate long enough, you start to lose access to the feeling itself. Desire fades when it is repeatedly delayed. The mind learns not just to hide it, but to blur it. That is when people say they do not know what they want, not because it is not there, but because it has been softened over time to avoid conflict. The pause becomes permanent, and that is when the question feels genuinely hard. There is a quiet contradiction in all of this. The more you hesitate, the more you appear flexible, easy, reasonable, and the more that impression solidifies, the harder it becomes to step out of it. People start expecting you to be undefined, to go along, to adapt, and expectations, once set, create their own gravity. So when someone asks what you want, you are not just answering a question, you are negotiating an image that has been forming for years. That is a heavy thing to do in real time. Sometimes the hesitation is not about other people at all. It is about avoiding commitment to yourself. Wanting something out loud makes it real. It draws a line between now and a possible future. And if you have learned that futures can disappoint, staying vague feels safer. Ambiguity keeps options open, but it also keeps you suspended. Psychology reveals that the brain prefers familiar discomfort over uncertain change. So hesitation becomes a way to stay oriented, even if it quietly costs you momentum. Pay attention to the internal dialogue in that pause. It is rarely, "What do I want?" It is more often, "What is the right thing to want?" Or "What will sound normal?" Or "What will not lead to more questions?" Those questions reveal the social layer of decision-making. We do not choose in isolation. We choose while imagining reactions, facial expressions, tone shifts, silence. Researchers suggest that this mental simulation runs constantly, even when we believe we are being spontaneous or honest. There is also the fear of being wrong, of changing your mind later. Saying what you want can feel like a contract. And some people grew up in environments where inconsistency was punished, where wanting one thing today and another tomorrow was framed as weakness or unreliability. So the safest move was to delay the declaration. Wait until you are absolutely sure. The problem is, absolute certainty rarely arrives. So the pause stretches, and over time, it starts to feel like part of who you are. I have noticed that when people finally answer honestly, their voice often drops. Not from shame, from focus. There is a grounding that happens when desire is named without editing. It is subtle, but it changes the energy of the room. Conversations slow down. Attention sharpens. That tells you something important. The hesitation was not protecting you from chaos. It was protecting you from presence, from being fully seen in that moment, without buffers. This is not about blaming the past or diagnosing yourself. It is about observing the pattern with curiosity. The next time someone asks what you want, notice the first reaction, the physical one, the breath, the tightening, the mental scan for a safe answer. That sequence is a map. It shows you where your emotional triggers live, not as flaws, as adaptations, patterns that once served you and may still be shaping your life quietly, behind the scenes. Most people never question that pause. They move past it quickly. They fill it with polite words. They assume it means nothing. But the pause holds information about how you learn to relate to others, about what felt dangerous to express, about which parts of you were rewarded and which were slowly muted. When you start seeing hesitation this way, it stops being an obstacle and becomes a signal. There is no final answer hidden here, no technique that makes the pause disappear. It will probably always exist in some form, but awareness changes its texture. It becomes less of a block and more of a doorway, a moment where you can feel the tension between who you are and who you learn to be. And that moment is worth paying attention to. After this video ends, the question will come up again, in a small way. What do you want to eat? What do you want to do next? What do you want from this? When it does, you might notice the pause differently, not as a failure to know yourself, but as a